provided a bracing morale boost for Marines locked in a death grip with their Japanese adversaries. This is how history is made. Chapter 1. Before. Why Iwo Jima? Iwo Jima is one of the most isolated places on Earth. Waterless and barren, it is unsubtly hostile to human settlement. Today, fewer than 400 people inhabit the island, all members of the Japan Self-Defense Force. The island is open to international travelers just one day a year, around the February 19th anniversary of the invasion, and only American and Japanese pilgrims, historians, and history buffs make the journey. Today, as in days predating the opening of Japan to the world in the mid-19th century, Iwo Jima rests at the very outer limit of the empire. Her only economic function has been the export of sulfur, a byproduct of the volcanic action that seethes barely beneath the island's mantle. During the first 4 years of the Pacific War, Iwo Jima had only 2 functions: as a watchpost against invasion of the Inner Empire, and as the seat of an airbase complex built to enhance her garrison's watch mission. But her importance to Japan in late 1944 and early 1945 was also emotional. Iwo Jima, nearly useless though it was nonetheless an integral component of the empire. Also because she could support several large airfields, which nearby islands could not, she would naturally come under the eye of the American naval, air, and amphibious forces sweeping across the vast Pacific toward the Japanese home islands. The reasons for stoutly defending the otherwise useless and barren volcanic speck was first one of honor, for Iwo Jima was intrinsically Japanese. Second, to deny the Americans the airfield sites for as long as possible, and third, to lay down the gauntlet, to communicate to the onrushing Americans that all of Japan would be as stoutly, as heroically, as unremittingly defended as was tiny, useless, but oh so Japanese, Iwo. The bloodbath at Iwo Jima in late February and most of March 1945 owes itself entirely to the exigencies of the air war in the Pacific as a whole, and specifically to the needs of the culminating phase of the strategic air offensive against the Japanese home islands. Until mid-1944, when U.S. Marine and Army divisions seized Japanese-held Saipan, Tinian, and Guam in the Mariana Islands, the Allied Pacific War strategy had been hobbled by the operational range, i.e., the effective combat radius, of land-based fighters. Simply put, to run an effective land-based bombing campaign against Japanese-held Pacific Island bases, the U.S. Army Air Forces, Navy, and Marine Air Commands in the Pacific had to provide numerous and effective fighter escorts. So, though bombers outranged fighters by a considerable margin, the advance up the Solomons chain in 1942 and 1943, along the northern coast of New Guinea from late 1942 to mid-1944, across the Central Pacific in late 1943 through mid-1944, and through the Philippines from September 1944, had to take place at a pace of up to 300 miles per hop, if the objective was to seize airfield sites from which Japanese bases farther out could be effectively interdicted by fighter-escorted, land-based bombers. This linkage between the Allied Pacific offensive and the operational range of fighters, which was less than half their actual range, held up as a military law of nature until the unveiling of the U.S. Navy's Fast Carrier Task Force in late 1943. At that point, as new fleet carriers and light carriers began to arrive in the Pacific war zone at an average rate in excess of 1 per month, the 300-mile law could be bent somewhat, if enough carriers could be shackled to a new objective long enough for ground troops to either seize an existing airfield that could be quickly rehabilitated or clear room for the rapid installation of a new airfield. As land-based fighters, fighter-bombers, and single-engine light bombers moved up to the new airfield, land-based multi-engine medium and heavy bombers also could be brought forward to support invasion troops ashore, as well as to strike nearby bases that had been kept under the gun to that point by carrier airstrikes. At that juncture, the full weight of the Fast Carrier Task Force could be used to soften up new targets beyond the operational range of land.